All right, we're live now.
Oh,
Hello,
nice.
everyone. Welcome to our first live stream of the year. Today, we're broadcasting from LinkedIn and YouTube from St. Louis, Missouri. My name is Dustin, and joining me today is my colleague, Johan. He's also in St. Louis as well. And how are you today, Johan?
Good. It's a bit windy, but otherwise it's all good.
Very good. Johan will be leading the presentation today. He'll be diving into the state of CloudAMQP and explore stats we've observed over the years, this year, and mostly about AMQP, MQTT, streams, and client libraries. You can ask questions in the comments section. We will answer those at the end. Both LinkedIn and YouTube, you should be able to add comments and questions, and we'll be able to see them. Without anything else, let us begin. I'll add you to this stage, Johan.
Perfect. And there are my slides. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you all very much for coming. I work as Chief Customer Officer with CloudAMQP, and been with the company for almost 10 years now. So it's I've seen many different scenarios, many different support cases. There were many different customers from all over the world using our services. So it's fun to dive into some of that usage and what it looks like, and what are the trends and what has happened during the last year and even in previous years, and how are people using our services. So I think today's presentation will be fairly quick, but we have also some room for questions and for whatever you want to look at. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of which clients are being used, and this is fairly static over time. Here we're showing languages, and I'll make a little point about that. So in Node.js, there are several clients that are being used. The biggest one in terms of users and in terms of virtual hosts using it is the AMQP lib. But we also have AMQP client JS and some others there. So that's the biggest. In .NET, there are several big clients. The official RabbitMQ.NET client, there is NService Bus, there is EasyNetQ. So there's quite a lot in .NET, and almost as big is Java, where there is also a good amount of usage. And what's currently being hidden by my picture there is is Python, and Python is also a language where there are several clients, and a big chunk of this is taken up by one client in particularly in Python called PyAMQP, and that one is mainly used by the Celery library. So you can see this a little bit as an onion that's being peeled, and a big chunk of the usage there is the Celery usage. Then just a few remarks here that Erlang is relatively big in 2%, but that stems from Erlang being used in RabbitMQ, and for all the shovels that are clients, all the federations, Erlang will show up as the language being used. So it's not that many, it's not as big as 2.1% are Erlang. People are using that Erlang client, yes, but it would be in other if it was not for the shovels. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say on that. If we look at numbers of queues, or if we look at a little bit more about the broker usage, what are people doing on the broker side? So here we're comparing 2019 and 2024. And if we look at queues, users, policies, bindings, exchanges, and vhosts, we can see that these are the median numbers, and we also have the max numbers here. And you can see that for all these numbers, they've increased over time, so that there's more in basically in all of them, and the median numbers are also higher. But what this means is that people are using the services more. They're moving from smaller plans to bigger plans over time, and getting more usage out of it. But let's dive into each one a little bit, and I will comment on what I think it means. So 7 queues was the median number back in 2019, and now we're looking at 35. And the max number there is something around 50,000. That's actually incorrect. The max number of queues is well over 100,000 that we have users doing. And there's a technical detail there why it says max 50,000. It's because if the definitions file is larger than 10 megabytes, it's not going to be taken into this statistics here. So there's some outliers. I think it's only queues that is incorrect here, where there are substantially more than the max number. But some reasons for why are people using like very high number of queues, and I say very high when it's above 10,000 roughly. There's a few use cases that pop up. Maybe the main one is where you have one user, one queue, more or less one message, and you scale that up to hundreds of thousands of users. And that's perfectly doable. And just two things to keep in mind there. Once you get up above, say, 15, 20,000 queues, you probably want to look at disabling most of the statistics in the management interface, because at that point, a lot of your CPU is just going to be used for collecting queue stats, which you're probably not going to look at in detail over time. And the other thing is, if you pair high number of queues with high number of users, you probably want to move away from storing all the users in RabbitMQ and start using a different backend for that, which is available. And so basically, so this our max user number, there are 106,000 users. That's probably one outlier. We probably have more users with the people using more these external backends. Policies, that number is probably related to number of vhosts. So if you have a high number of virtual hosts and have a few policies there, so if I skip ahead to vhosts there, if you have 1,400 vhosts and then have 3 policies for each one, yeah, then you'll get up to the high number of policies. That's usually not the case, but yeah, something to think of is that it gets kind of hard to administer the cluster when you have that many vhosts, especially. I usually recommend people to keep the number of vhosts somewhere in between 10, 50, because as the number of vhosts grow, you're adding supervisors for each vhosts, and you're adding to startup time, basically adding a lot of complexity that you usually don't need. It's probably better to increase users and keep the number of vhosts relatively small. And that goes especially if you have if you're doing usage where you're looking at putting same number, if you're using one cluster for staging, test, production, then really think about, because sometimes you have a high number of queues in one of these, and if that's by mistake in one of the vhosts, that's fine. But if you're then actually doing that mistake in additional vhosts, you're robbing yourself of resources, and you'll see failures that happen in production too, which you might not. That's probably not what you want. Okay, bindings. Here's also a relatively common, sometimes it happens that instead of using more generic bindings, there's added bindings for each case that's not really needed, and that's why you end up with these massive numbers like 263,000 bindings. That's almost never, I would say that's never needed to have that many bindings. Number of exchanges, same thing. You probably don't need more than 100 exchanges or so, and that comes into this multiplication with vhosts. If you have many vhosts and you have many exchanges per vhost, then the total number of exchanges will be very high. And yeah, one thing here, why are the median numbers for vhosts and users too? Well, it's because that's what we create. When you create a new cluster with CloudAMQP, you'll get a default virtual host, which we generate, which is 8 characters long, with a default users, also 8 characters long. And then we create the root vhost too. So those two together, that's why you see the median number of users, policies, vhosts being the same there. Okay, let's look at what happened in releases over the year. And a little bit what's coming into the future. So we are doing, or what we did in 2024 was we finished out the last, in RabbitMQ, we finished out the last RabbitMQ version in 3.12 series. Then all of the 3.13 series happened. And I think the big news in 3.13 was MQTT version 5 support, which was brand new. And that encapsulates most of the MQTT 5 features, but not shared subscriptions. And this harkens back to 3.12, where there was a rewrite of MQTT and much lower resource usage for using MQTT. So I think that's one of the trends that we've seen, is that people are more willing to have more connections now that it's cheap in RabbitMQ to have MQTT connections. Then the big thing that happened was in RabbitMQ was that version 4 was released. And that has default Classic Queue version 2. There is no Classic Queue version 1 anymore. There is no need anymore to specify that you want lazy queuing, because that's built into Classic Queue version 2. Probably the biggest thing for many of our long-time users is that in version 4, there is no classic mirrored queues anymore. And there's some other things like updated quorum queues, and also a complete rewrite of the AMQP 1.0, which used to be a plugin, but is now a native part of the broker. But it's much more powerful now than it was as a plugin. So it's you could say it's a complete rewrite, and that also means that there's been internal parts of Rabbit that's been rewritten for this. Then what's just on the horizon is version 4.1, which we'll probably see in, I don't know, a few weeks, months, and we'll have a feature that I'm excited for, which is message size histogram, which has been requested by many customers, and it will be quite nice to see the histogram of messages, of message sizes. In LabinMQ, we did the last one version. So the last 1.3.1 is the last in that series. And the big news was version 2, which added full replication. So you can have, there was already a replication, but now there is a full, highly available cluster type, which is backed by etcd, where there is, if the leader goes down, there's leader election, you'll have a new leader, and automatic failover, which was not there before. So that's the really big news that happened there. For many of our users, though, another really big new item is the new management interface that came in version 2.1, which is much nicer looking. And I think there will be a few additional tweaks to that that's coming soon here in the next few weeks with version 2.2. And the big new feature there is MQTT support. And so that's MQTT version 3. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to that. Should also say one or two things about these 3 and 4 versions in RabbitMQ. Some maybe smaller things that can be big is that it's now much faster and much especially more easier to read in big messages on startup. So this is primarily an issue with our smallest plans. So if you have a big message, it would run out of memory, could not start up, and you would get into this loop where it's starting over. And a lot of this was fixed in 3.13.1, and then there was one more fix in the version 4 series. So we should be in a much better position there for those users. Overall, in terms of versions that people are using for RabbitMQ, we can see that 3.13.7 is the most used version right now, followed by 3.12.12. But we can see that the 4 versions are climbing steadily here. So 4.04 and 4.05, and soon 4.07 will be the biggest gainers here when we're looking ahead to what's coming there. And yeah, just one short note here on 3.12.12 is one reason why that one is still so high there is that that's the version that we've automatically upgraded some of our 3.5 and 3.6 and 3.7 clusters that are being upgraded are ending on this 3.12.12. So that's one of the reasons why it's so popular. And I think that was it. That was the fast overview, and we'll do some questions, and then I'll talk a little bit more about trends that we've seen.
Oh, thank you, Johan. Insightful presentation. Check threads here on some platforms. We have a question here. Can you give us a good example of a use case that you've seen within the last year?
Yeah, I think one use case that I've seen repeatedly, which is new, is that people are starting to use the streams functionality in both LabNMQ and in RabbitMQ, where you store something, incoming orders in a stream, but you also send it to a queue. So you'll send something that needs to happen with the order right away to the queue, process it there, done. But then you have the stream for reprocessing, and I've seen that a few times, which is new. I think just yeah, the other thing that I really like is seeing some of the user stories that we publish on our blog. So we've had one with in 2024 with Relay Ride, and so those are always fun to see.
Great to see. We have a few more here, looks like. And then someone asking, should they consider switching client libraries to maybe match some of the trends that you're seeing?
Maybe if you are yeah, it depends. It depends if the library that you're using is being updated and there are bug fixes, then you're good. But if not, then that's when I would consider switching.
Yeah, finding some client libraries that maybe recently maintained sounds like a good approach. And then someone asking, should they consider switching protocols? AMQP 1 versus 09.1?
Yeah, maybe not. Unless there is something that you really really see in it depends on what type of usage you have. Maybe the one that's if you have if you have a scenario where you're doing type of IoT type thing with AMQP 091, yes, then it might be worthwhile looking into MQTT. But most of the time, the protocol, unless it's that, you'd have to look at a little bit more. Is there a latency issue? Then if so, where does the latency stem from? Will that change with a different protocol? Yeah.
Very good. We have a question. I mentioned other mechanisms to manage users. Which are the most commonly used and/or are there ones that you would recommend?
Yeah, the two most used ones are the HTTP one is, and then is the other one is the OAuth 2, and it's on our roadmap to implement OAuth 2 more natively. So today you can do it. It's just a round trip through us in the support department if you want to use it, but it's on the roadmap so that you can do it in the control panel.
And then we got, looks like one more here. Is there an ideal RabbitMQ version to be on? They're viewing from that, I think we had that big chart about which are the most common versions. Is there one that people should be aiming for?
For both LabinMQ and RabbitMQ, the latest are the greatest. There are, we've contributed to both these 407 and to the 2.1. So those are actually the best. There are, yeah, if you really want to stick to, yeah, but those are the best. Maybe, yeah, 3.12.14 has a sweet spot actually for me. So that's a good version that avoids some of the issues in early 3 13. So yeah.
Nice. We have a question. What client library are we using the most at CloudAMQP?
We're probably the language. We're polyglots, so we use Ruby and Clojure for message brokering, and I think the two that we're using the most are the Bunny library and the AMQP client library. So yeah, those are the big ones. But the Clojure one is doing a lot of heavy lifting too.
Nice. Let's see. Looks like we have more here. Should I try to switch queue types for 4.0 or
Yeah.
other?
Yes and no. So you should, if you're using classic mirrored queues, you should make those queues non-mirrored, and in some cases move those to quorum queues. And you can definitely look at the MQTT QoS0 queue type, which is very good for a lot of MQTT use cases. You should also consider what I mentioned there in a little bit about the trend of using the streams for basically backup of messages, both in Rabbit and LiveNMQ, to just bind a queue to the queue that where you're working, but also set a retention on the important queues so that you have a backup of messages that you can reprocess at will.
Great information. I think that's all the questions we have from all the users. I just want to say thank you for the insightful presentation, Johan. Many thanks to the viewers watching our stream today. You can find a recording of the stream on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you want to review any of the information, you can send us an email at contact@cloudamqp.com. If you have any questions that come to mind or topic that you would like us to explore in the future, definitely let us know. We also have blog posts that feature the most popular topics from 2024, and also the year in review. Both of those can be found in the blog section of CloudAMQP. Stay tuned to our newsletter, social posts for future live streams. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.